on this episode of The Clarity Code.
So what else is on the horizon besides, AI optimization? What do we need to be looking after?
So I can definitely see a lot of like AR and VR. So for example, you're walking down the street and you've got AR augmentation. So you look at a store and it gives you the reviews pop up as you're walking by. So you want to make sure, oh, okay, I want to have strong reviews so that when people walk by my store, it shows and they see it and it stands out from amongst my competitors. So even things like that will still be key in the future, but it's how the people will interact with them and how it will be displayed to them. That's what you want to be thinking about now, is like, how can my brand make an impact in the future?
The Clarity Code, presented by Commotion Engine. Clear insights from marketing leaders.
Today on the Clarity Code, I am joined by Barry Rosen, a digital marketing strategist, AI consultant, and principal at WSI. Barry's career spans more than 25 years in global enterprise tech with leadership roles at IBM, HCL, Workovia. Now, he's taking all that big company experience and knowledge and putting it to work for growth-minded businesses, helping them use AI optimization, SEO, and digital strategies that drive real results. His motto says it best: embrace digital, stay human. We're going to talk about how AI is reshaping marketing and the lessons he's learned along the way. So welcome to the Clarity Code, Barry.
Thank you very much. Really happy to be here.
Yeah, it's really exciting to talk to someone, especially in this time when AI really is everything in the marketplace, seemingly taking over every single industry. Is there any commonality between the challenges that you're seeing at the local business level? Is everyone struggling with generally the same thing?
Yeah, I think most small business owners, what I see the pattern is that they're obviously experts. So let's say a plumber, right? A plumber is going to know plumbing. They're not necessarily going to be an expert at marketing or technology. They started their business because they know how to do plumbing. And so that's where I come in. And just like you wouldn't hire, um, you know, uh, a doctor to look over your contracts, you want to hire the right expert to help you either with AI or with marketing. So that's where I come in. They don't have the money to have a marketing director or have a full team or do research or the time. And a lot of times they know that they need to post on social media. They understand SEO, but they don't have time to blog or optimize their website. They understand, concepts around paid advertising, but they don't know how the time to optimize and, look at what's going on over time and then help the entire funnel process and how you can optimize the entire thing. So that's where they hire an expert to come in and give them that viewpoint and then give them recommendations. So what I do see commonalities is people understand that they need to do marketing or need to do automation. They just don't have the time or resources to do it because they're a one person show. And so that's where we can come in and, take over that and then provide the results, because obviously we're data driven as well, because we're not going to do something unless we can provide you results. And then this is also an investment versus an expense. So my goal is, as a marketing person and also as an AI, if we're doing an AI project, is to show you what is the ROI that you're going to get for this expense. And then you can determine as a business owner if it's worth it for you to then move forward with that decision.
Yeah, so take us through like a typical 90-day framework when you first get started with a company. Is there certain milestones that you like to look for, in the first 90 days?
Yeah, so if I'm coming in as an advisory role, so as like a fractional AI CEO or advisor, we do have a very good methodology. And the first thing that we do is we come in and there's a couple of areas that we focus on. One is education, because what we're finding is if you don't build the foundation, you can't jump right to finding out where the problems are and solving it with AI. We have to do a lot of foundational work. And a lot of that is around education, adoption, culture. So the first thing that we do is we go in and understand where are the employees today. And then we ask them, do you have any guidelines around usage for AI? policies around usage? Have you have you told your employees they can use it, but here are things that they
Sure.
can or cannot do? So that's the first thing that we do, is kind of work with HR and legal and say, here are the guide rails around the usage. We want to encourage the usage, but we want to do it in a safe and legal way for the company so that they're not leaking their personal or proprietary data out into the ether, and so that people aren't using their custom GPTs or their
Yeah.
personal accounts, and that they're using the company provided either Copilot, or if they're a Microsoft shop or Gemini, or they've paid for ChatGPT Enterprise where they want to use that. They've got local repository or LLMs. That would be the first thing. The second thing would be in education. So we do a little bit of a baseline to see where the employees are. So we'll do some quizzes and some tests to see where are they at, and then how can we get them higher from a education perspective. Then we'll meet with the executives and talk about culture and adoption, and we'll set up an advisory council.
Okay.
And we want to start with the top, and adoption really starts at the top of the chain so that they can show, hey, we're using this, and then also reward people who are doing positive things with AI within the organization. Then we start moving on towards looking at what are the actual problems that you're trying to solve. What are the repetitive tasks? What are the things? So, for example, for a plumber, let's say you're open 24/7, but it's expensive to provide call support from 6 p.m. or midnight until 6 a.m. And so you've got a call center that's doing that, but it's not really, you're not getting enough calls to pay for it. And
Right.
so, we
Right.
can think about like, oh, there's an AI voice receptionist that we can have, and that will do, take the calls down and schedule them on the calendar, create a ticket, take all the customer information. So you're paying a set fee per month versus paying a human for that. So those are some ways where we can go in and look at areas for optimization, or just simple tasks where we see a lot of people who have like an old system and they're migrating to a new system, and they have to take data from the old system and then go through some sort of conversion process. And they've got people manually doing that, and it takes a couple of hours a week to export it in one format and then put it into another format and then import it into another system. So those are the type of things that we can easily automate versus using AI. So those are just opportunities that we'll go in and look for. And what we do is we'll go in and we'll look at, and we'll break it down literally task by task by task in the process, and say, all right, is this automation? Is this AI? And then make a recommendation based on that. And in that way, we'll give them options. And then once we leave, then the projects have a higher rate of success, because we've educated people, we set the guardrails, and we're also rewarding them based on the usage. And we've also got the C-level buy-in, because we've established that advisory council, because this is the living thing. It's not a come in one time and you're done. I come in, and once I'm gone, you're set. You never have to touch this again. I mean, this is changing so fast that you're going to have to really be adapting as a business. And the other thing that we want to make sure is that not only do they have an internal policy, but they've got an external policy as well,
Sure.
so that
Sure.
they can communicate to their customers, what are they doing with AI? What are they doing with the customer data? And then the other thing that I try to do is shift the mindset from not only using AI to optimize and save money, but then also how can we use AI to create new opportunities within the organization, either new products, new services, based on the data that you've got and you've collected from your customers. Now, what can you do to offer customized solutions to them, or add value to the solutions that you're already offering as well, to make them stickier?
You said something really interesting. You said we discover what is AI and what's automation. And I love that, because AI is such a buzzword, right? Everyone says their product is AI. A lot of the SaaS companies that I see out there say AI first. But really a lot of that's just automation. So in your perspective, let's talk a little bit about the hype versus reality with AI. It's everywhere, but what's real and what's useful with AI, and what do you feel like is just kind of buzz and fluff?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's so funny. So I went to the Miami Business Show in March, and I was
Okay.
a speaker.
Nice.
And so 6 months before, I'm thinking, what do I want to talk about? And so we're talking, late 2024. And I'm thinking, okay, obviously I'm going to do something on AI. And when I'm looking, nobody's there. There's no topics on AI. And then I get there 6 months later, and every
Everything's AI.
topic is AI,
Yeah.
and every booth product has AI next to it. I'm like,
Yep.
what changed in the last 6 months
Yep.
besides just it's a buzzword, like you said? So that's kind of where I come in and help my customers is like, we don't care about what it says. And the bottom line is, what is the ROI and what is the outcome that you're trying to achieve, and what is the best way to get there? Is it, like I said, is it through automation or is it through AI? And automation is something where it's just kind of a repetitive task. AI is very good at like generative stuff. So for example, in a marketing perspective, generating content, either blogs or images or videos or things like that. So those are areas where AI is very good at creating content, and being used as really AI because it's actually, creating things off of prompts
Yes.
versus something where it's an automation where it's like, if X occurs and Y occurs, then it equals Z every time. That's more of an automation. Or export in this, do these things, change these fields, and then put it back into a different format. That's more of an automation. And so at the end of the day, we want to help the customer save time and give them an ROI, and we will explain to them the difference. But they just care that, hey, this task gets completed and
Yeah.
it's saving us time, right? So,
It's
but
the
we
bottom
do
line.
education on
Yeah.
the difference between automation and AI, and that's where I come in as well. Is like, I try to cut out the hype and the chaos because I'm coming in from a non-biased perspective. I'm not Microsoft, I'm not Google, so I can come in and say, yes, in this case, this is the right tool, or this is the right vendor, or it's not. And I don't have skin in the game to like tell you what's going to help you or not. My goal is what's going to get you the best ROI for
Love
you.
that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it can be used in so many positive ways. SEO, lead gen, content. On the flip side, where do you see businesses misusing or over trusting AI?
Mm. Yeah, that's a great question. Wow. Because most of the businesses that I work with are they're at the other end of the spectrum where they haven't even adopted it
Don't
yet.
even
But
touch it,
I would
right?
say,
Yeah.
yeah, they haven't touched it yet. So they're like literally, or, they're touching it, but not in an official way where it's like, but I would say the most dangerous thing, what I would see is maybe putting in your numbers, like maybe in your financial information
Oh,
or
okay.
something like that.
Sure.
I don't know if that's something that I would want to be putting my business information into, unless I know that it's going to stay local and private and it's not going to go anywhere else. That's the kind of information, or any customer identifying information, beyond names or anything like that. A lot of people use it for email address, for like creating email responses and things like
Yeah.
that. Um, One of the things that I've been using is, I've been thinking about is, from a customer perspective and a sales perspective, is when I'm in the sales process, identifying the customer's communication style using the DISC methodology, and the specific
Okay.
communications based on that. So I'm experimenting with that to see if that's helping my sales cycles. Instead of just saying, oh, you're an expert sales rep, respond to this email. I'm like, this person, here's their DISC profile. Create an email that not only communicates what I'm trying to communicate, but communicates in their personal style as well. So I'm kind of adding that extra layer on top as well. We'll
It's an
see
extra
how that
layer to
goes.
a
I just started
persona
doing
to
that.
be able to really speak to them the way that they can understand and they will respond.
Exactly. I'm trying. And then that's something that, can lead to CRM automation as well. You can add the personas, the classification in your CRM, and then have customized email drips based on persona. And then it's like, all right, well, now what? Now what? Like, oh, well, gosh, this is my customer base, so I can remarket to them. So,
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that struck me when I was, looking into interviewing you for this was your motto, embracing AI and staying human. What does that mean to you?
Oh yeah. So and to kind of continue that conversation, the other mistake is just overusing AI and not putting yourself into it as well and making sure that you're a human in the loop. Because I'm seeing a lot, and I've got the eye now where I can see when it pops up, I can see the AI generated art, and I can see the AI generated content because I'm doing it myself as well. So
Yeah.
my eye is becoming attuned to that. I think there's going to be an overcorrection. I think people are gonna. It's kind of like a fad almost kind of thing, and people will the pendulum will swing back to I think people will want human created content because at the end of the day, people want authenticity. And so and the connection, the human connection, and I think that's where people will go back to. And so that's where keeping the human in the loop is really important because you can't just take something from AI and then just put it out there and be like, it's perfect. No, you've got to, AI gets you about 80-90%, but you always have to look at it, tweak it, edit it, make sure that it's correct. There's no hallucinations, all of that. And you've heard it in the news. We've heard of people just putting stuff out there and like, oh man, there was a mistake in there because someone didn't double check to make sure that it was actually factual what AI was telling them, and so we've learned our lesson. And so, even though AI is very helpful and it gets you about 80 or 90% of the way, you always want that human in the loop, especially when you're creating content that you're going to be putting out that's representing your brand, that's out in the ether. Look at the Cracker Barrel, you know,
Yes.
controversy. I'm not going to comment either way, but you see what happens when you make a change. And so you have to be very cognizant of that. And, you can't just rely just on AI and say, I'm going to put it out there. And because if it messes something up, it can really hurt your brand. And it's hard to recover sometimes when you do that. And people don't want to hear, well, it was AI. That's not a valid excuse. Like you've got it because someone's going to get fired at the end of the day. A
Yes.
human is going to get fired if there's an AI mistake. So,
Brand reputation is so important, right? And I think about that a lot from the agency perspective. I always say we use AI for expediting things, for making processes more simpler, but it doesn't replace the creativity. If we replace
yeah,
the creativity and every copy that I write is AI and every picture or video I generate is all AI, you lose the human touch. And like you said, I think that pendulum swing is going to happen sooner than later, where people are really going to see the AI, they're going to know what it is, and they're going to have a desire just for that human touch. Like a lot of my friends, I have some friends who love records. They love to listen to vinyl. And, I kind of
yeah.
laughed at them at first, but it's like, man, going back to like a true sound, something that's different than my MP3 on Apple Music. I think there's something special about that. And we're going to go right back to real people and being super genuine.
I love the vinyl analogy. I think that's a perfect way to kind of describe that because people went so digital
Yeah.
and, with CDs and MP3s. And when the ear goes back to that analog, it's such a special thing. Like I listen to music all the time and then you hear a record and it's so warm. It's like there's something about that tone. And you're right. You think about it, like people are crazy with these vinyl records, but then you hear it and you're like, gosh,
Yeah.
there's something. And I think that's exactly how that content is going to stand out. And what's interesting is if you think about like Gen AI, when more content when more content is created by AI, then AI is looking at that. So it's kind of like then it's feeding itself. So it gets less and less human. Correct that at some point because you know uh people will reject that at some point, I think. So
Yeah. So how do you manage that with your clients then, as far as like keeping that human, authentic touch, still using AI and not taking it to the level where that takes over the human side of the brand?
yeah, from a marketing perspective, you nailed it. In my agency, I use AI to expedite tasks. So, to give me summaries of transcripts of meetings so I can create slides for the next steps, create ICPs, I can create outputs, I can create PDFs for a customer, proposals, things like that. But what I recommend to my customers is when they're thinking about AI, really think about it from a marketing perspective and capturing the people who are doing AI searches. So I'm thinking about it from an SEO and AI optimization perspective, because that's the biggest trend that's impacting my customers now. Is if you've spent all this time and effort on making a website and SEO optimizing it, more and more people are not using Google to find things anymore on the web, and they're going towards LLMs because it makes perfect sense. Google is a Boolean concept, and unless you're an expert, sometimes you can't find things. It's hard to find things in Google unless you know the exact search terms
Right.
to find, and it takes a couple of searches and attempts, and then you get a bunch of links. So then it's like a research project. Now I got to go and look at all these pages and see, all right, is this what I really wanted? And maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Well, with ChatGPT, you can ask it a question, or any LLM, you can ask a question in a natural human language, and then it returns an answer. So you could say something like, hey, I'm going to dinner with 8 of my friends. One is a pescatarian, one's a vegetarian, one's a celiac, and one is lactose intolerant. I need to find a restaurant in a 5-mile radius that we can book in the next 30 minutes.
There's a water
Something
fountain
like
down the
that.
street you can use for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's probably a very rare niche, but
Yes.
man, if you're a restaurant, thinking good for you. But that's something where ChatGPT can find that, whereas Google, you'd have to look at every website and figure it
Yeah.
out. Look at the menu, and is it, can my friends eat here, or can we do this? Can everyone be happy? But with ChatGPT or LLMs, it's going to return all of that stuff. So what I'm telling my customers is start changing the content on your website to capture the AI searches with by using like question and answer, because that's what most searches are, is questions. And if you look at um, where the sources that these LLMs are pulling from, it's Reddit, it's Quora, it's
Yeah.
all these forums where people ask a question and there's an answer. So I'm telling them, instead of writing the blog in the traditional format, write it more in a question and answer format, and then have bulleted points in the middle of the blog so that you're cited when, these LLMs are searching for content. They'll pull up your website. So you've got to also think about future trends and how you're being found. And what's interesting is I'm like, gosh, if agentic AI and bots kind of happen, then why would you ever go to a website as a consumer? Like, I'm just going to use an example. Like, okay, why would I ever go to an airline's website to book a flight if I can tell my AI agent to do it for me? So I feel like it's also going to change the UX of websites, because at some point, it's mostly going to be bots going out there and doing stuff. And really the human piece is going to be the branding. Like, okay, what do they look like? What are, the branding and looking at products. But once you kind of know what you want, then you're going to have agents go and perform these tasks for you, schedule things, buy things,
Yeah.
look for a sale. And like, does a website need a UX for that to occur? Probably not, but there'll be a back end and a front end for that as well. So it'll be really interesting to see where just website design goes in the next 5 years based on agentic AI.
It's been so interesting, growing up, and the generation before me, everything was yellow pages. And then in my generation, it was like Yahoo, Google, Ask Jeeves, those kinds of things. And then what I noticed with Gen Z, about 5 years ago, everything was like, they would look for a location, they'd go to Instagram or social media to find a location. And then now, like you said, everything's going towards ChatGPT, because I find LLMs to be the best way to find pretty much anything, like you said. And if I don't have to go outside of one app or one browser window, it's going to be the best thing. So one thing that we've been focusing on in a lot of businesses is that AI optimization. And you had some amazing tips as far as bolding and FAQs. And I think one thing that has really stuck out to me, and you nailed it too, was like 70% of what LLMs go to for resources is the Quora, the Reddit, which makes me feel good and bad about it, because sometimes it's true, sometimes things are not true there. But that's what I would trust most. Like, if I'm looking for reviews, I want to see what people are actually saying, not just what a website says. So I think it's absolutely important
Yes.
to AI optimize all of your content.
And now is the time to build that authority as well. And then the other recommendation is use, beyond just text, use visual, like infographics and videos, because LLMs can index that as well. And what's interesting is the speech aspect of it as well, because now it's on the phone.
Yeah.
And so now you can talk and have a conversation versus just typing from the desktop. So, I'm seeing more and more people just talking into their phone and using the LLMs that way and getting the responses back as well. And then it's back in your desktop because it's all in one place. Like you said, you don't have to leave the app.
It's all there,
So,
and that makes it so convenient. Yesterday, I was cooking dinner for the family, and everybody gets kind of annoyed by the same things we're having all the time. So I opened up ChatGPT, opened up the camera, and said, "Look at my fridge, and here's the pantry. Tell me what I can make that I've never made before, based on what you see." And so even things like that, it's going to
oh yeah.
recognize foods, but also brands, logos, like the recognition that we need to build. And I think you nailed it, because in 5 years, that's probably going to be where everyone goes to, is their favorite LLM. And if that's the case, building the authority now is going to be really important, so that you're future proofing. Because if you're spending all your budget on SEO, that's not going to help you in 5 years.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the message that we're giving our customers now is right now you still do need to pay attention because the transition hasn't fully occurred yet. But the bulk of your investment should be going towards the future and thinking about AI and how that's impacting searches and how you're going to be found and how you want what you want to be found and how you want to be found in the future as well.
Well, so what else is on the horizon besides AI optimization? What do we need to be looking after?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go a little bit deep, for me, I'm thinking like AR and VR because when you talk about like LLMs and devices, you see like glasses and things like that. Apple had their uh, release today, and I think they were talking about doing translations through their headphones.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see a lot of like AR and VR. So, for example, you're walking down the street and you've got AR augmentation. So you look at a store and it gives you the reviews pop up as you're walking by. So you want to make sure, oh, okay, I want to have strong reviews so that when people walk by my store, it shows and they see it and it stands out from amongst my competitors. So even things like that will still be key in the future, but it's how the people will interact with them and how it will be displayed to them. That's what you want to be thinking about now is like, how can my brand make an impact in the future? And, obviously AR, VR, probably 5-10 years down the line because
Sure.
you've got to adopt the hardware, but you're seeing more and more content with the meta glasses and, it's just a logical, extension with the glasses of just augmented reality. And from a marketing perspective, it seems like a very ripe um, way to go as well.
I think some companies are adopting like a predecessor to that stage. I was purchasing a dishwasher a couple weeks ago, and most of the stores, they just have price tags, and you don't know much. So I find myself going to Google, going to ChatGPT. Hey, what do we think about this brand? Give me pros and cons, comparisons. But one store I went to, and they had like live price tags that were digital. It had the reviews already based on their own store's reviews, right? So it's not, an LLM, but they're starting. And so I think that kind of mindset going into, we don't want just our building to look really nice on the outside and have clean windows. We also need those good reviews and the positive Yelps, because when people walk by, they're going to judge before they walk in, which is a totally different story than how things were 5 years ago.
Yes, absolutely. And it's kind of like it's going to be interesting. I feel like AI is like electricity. Like think about before there was electricity and now we literally don't even think about it. It's like you turn on the light and it's just there. That's kind of how AI is going to kind of be. It's just going to be embedded in everything that we do, and just going to be there. We're kind of going through this curve, this, process. Now, there may be some stalls, there may be some stutters as well, because there are some limitations, I went to I spoke actually at the Houston AI Club last week, and the speaker
Nice.
before me had a really cool presentation. And he was talking about like the data is going to run out for feeding the LLMs by
Interesting.
like 2028. So like, which is a really interesting concept. So then it's like, okay, well, what do you then feed it with? So
Yeah.
there will be some stutters and then just powering, we're seeing that now, like we've got to build the data centers to power these things in the future. So, that's going to take time. And so there's a lot of things that are at play. But yes, I mean, just this is the fastest technology adoption curve that we've seen, and there were going to be impacts all over. And I think we're actually seeing the beginning of that in the job markets. You're seeing the impacts just on people coming out of college now. And I'm thinking my daughter is a sophomore in college, and
Mm.
she's actually studying speech pathology. So I'm like,
Okay.
that's a good major where
Yes.
that's probably that's AI proof because there's going to be augmentation with that and like diagnosis. But for a human, you need to tell someone how to move their mouth and form their tongue and help them. That's a very high touch thing. But like, what does college even mean today? Like, what does it
Yeah.
even mean to get a college degree? And I think back, there's a movie called Real Genius with Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
And there's kind of a scene in there where they're going to class and it's the beginning of the semester and everyone's in there. They're all sitting in their seats and the professor is in there. And then it kind of slowly progresses where one person puts like a recording device in there. So the professor is lecturing and then the rest of the students are like, well, why are we coming if we can just record it and listen to it later? And then it's the professor talking to a bunch of recording devices. And the professor's like, why am I talking to a bunch of recording
Oh
devices?
my gosh.
So he
Yeah.
puts a recording device. So it's a recording device speaking to a bunch of recording devices. And I feel like that's going to be like kind of where we're going to be at, where there's going to be a bunch of little avatars and AI agents kind of doing our task and then kind of reporting back to us. And we'll just kind of just sit there like, okay.
So, like you mentioned earlier, most of your customers are not AI focused yet. Some are probably resistant. So, what do you say to people who are afraid AI is going to take over the world, or it's going to ruin my business, or don't
Yeah.
put that in my shop?
Yeah, that's great. I have a lot of objections. I'm like, look, if you do nothing, then think about what happened pre-COVID
Yeah.
and how many businesses were around pre-COVID and how many businesses did not adapt.
Right.
So, for example, a restaurant that did not go to delivery quick enough, they lost their business, right? And so this is something where we can see it coming and we can prepare for this. But if you do nothing, that's the wrong answer. So I'm like, if you do anything, the very minimum is to put a policy in place for usage within your organization,
Okay.
or you should be understanding like, how are you using it and how is it helping and how you can use it to help your business. That's a bare minimum you should be doing. But yeah, doing nothing really is not an option today
Yeah.
because, and it's not that, um, the AI businesses are all going to survive because it's like we saw with the .com, if it is hype. But if you are not using AI to optimize your business, the businesses that do, they will pass you and that your competitors will beat you, whether they're doing it for operations, for lead, for marketing, for customer support, for whatever. Because a lot of people like using the plumber analogy. They're like, I'm a plumber. What do I need AI for? Like, I
Yeah.
don't need AI. I'm a roofer. I'm a
Yep.
fencer.
Yep.
That's right. That you don't. But guess what? Your customers are using AI. And so you're going to need it for customer service. You're going to need it to do marketing. You're going to need it to do contact, to manage your contacts. So yes, plumbing will probably not be changed fundamentally by AI, but operations and the business around plumbing, that is
Yes.
going to be fundamentally changed by AI. And so that's where I think once they see that light, they're like, okay, yes, that makes sense.
For sure. So, getting them to see the light, how can a leader start experimenting with AI in a low risk, high reward situation?
Yeah, I think that's another awesome question. What I generally recommend is don't try to boil the ocean all at once. What are the small wins that you can do? Start with we call them microbets. If you can find 10 to 20 microbets in your organization and it's maybe say 5 minutes, 10 minutes per task, but you add those up and then over time you've saved an hour or 2 hours, that's awesome. And that's how you kind of build on that success. You don't go and say, what is the most complex problem that we have? Let's go tackle that now.
Fix that one
What are
today. Yes.
the Yeah, so I say, look, start with the really simple things, the bite-size problems that are just bugging everyone. What's the one thing that just people hate to do in your organization, or just bugs that out of you that you wish you could just have someone else do, or you can automate that, and just let's figure that out, and then just get those little mini wins. And if you can then go to your organization and say, all right, if everyone can come up with 2 to 5 micro wins in their own workflow, we've saved the organization hours of time by the end of the quarter. And we haven't even really tackled anything huge at that point. So that's kind of the way that I would approach it, and just say, look for small things. Like, what's a daily task that you do? Use AI to schedule that. Like, do you need a summary from your calendar for that in the morning? Use AI to do that. Just small things that can save you 5 minutes a day times 5. That's 25 minutes a week times 4. You're adding those numbers up over time. Those can turn into big time savers.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fear too, just around losing the job to AI. So I think it's actually going to happen. There will be jobs that are replaced, but instead of the fear of it taking over my job, learn how to use it to make you more efficient at your job and be like a leader of an AI segment of the organization, so that you don't have to worry about losing the job. In fact, you can run that department, the division, that task, whatever that is, and use it to your advantage.
Absolutely. And that's what we're going to see within organizations, is that the people who are adopting AI, they're going to advance much faster because they can complete tasks in shorter time. And then that will free them up to focus on bigger picture things within the organization and solving like organizational level problems. And then doing things like you're saying, is like bringing that and saying, all right, here's how I used AI to optimize my job. Let's see how we can do that to similar workers, or groom that to other divisions or other areas within the organization, for sure.
And now, the clarity check.
All right, Barry, it's time for the clarity check. These are quick questions with quick answers, so don't overthink it. Just your first initial thoughts. My first one is, what's one marketing tactic that you feel like always works regardless of the industry?
Google Business Profile Optimization.
That's awesome. One of the first things that happened to me when I joined Commotion Engine is we actually lost our status with Google Business Profile. It was funny. We changed the address because we moved locations, and then that flagged it, and it was the hardest thing to get a hold of Google. So I can see why it's important.
They suck dealing with them if you make a mistake or you make a change. But that's one of the things where it's like low-hanging fruit as a small business owner. If you set that up properly and you optimize that, that's the best thing you can do for your business. Almost more important than your website, because people will find that and then click to go to your website.
Yes,
so,
that's how they get there, for sure.
Yeah.
What's the most overrated buzzword that you see in marketing today?
Well, AI. I mean, just in general. So like I said, and I feel like it's been tacked onto everything, whether it's automation, whether it's true AI. I think, everyone feels like they have to put AI into what they're doing to stand out. And it's kind of having the opposite effect.
Yes. What's the fastest way to know if your marketing is actually working?
Yeah. I would say hire a professional to do an audit, or ask your marketing person to provide you with an audit. And I do free audits, so I can either do a light audit or a deep audit, and go in. It's always nice to have a second pair of eyes to look and see. I'm always going to find something you can improve on. And
right.
I'll be honest, if they're doing a great job, I'll tell you. And if they're not, then I'll tell you, and I'll tell you why.
That's great.
And there's probably a lot of free tools out there where you can do an audit on your website. And I would say do a couple, like do one for website traffic, do one for SEO, and then do one for like the tech side of your website, like performance, like how's it performing? Because even if you're generating traffic to your website, if it's not performing well, people will bounce. So like, these are all things that you want to consider.
If you had to double a company's leads in just 90 days, what would be one of the first levers you'd pull?
Yeah, that would be paid advertising. That's usually the quickest and easiest way to get clicks. Takes about 90 days to do that, but that's the if people say I need leads now,
Yeah.
it's always going to be like, all right, what's your budget? And because basically once you launch the ads, people will be clicking on the ads and going to your website. So, and then it's just a matter of converting those to leads.
How does video content fit in a funnel?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do put video in our Google Ads. So we try to put small videos in that. So that's top of funnel. And then also on your website, especially if you've got a visual product or you're selling something that may be complex that you need a video explainer for your audience, or as a testimonial. I see a lot of websites that have testimonials from customers, so you can like hear from actual customers versus reading the Google video. And then also a lot of times the owner on the About Me, they might want to have something about themselves, about why they started the company, about what their unique, what makes them unique, what their USP is, what their unique selling point is, and how they stand out amongst their competitors. But generally it's towards the beginning or middle of that. I also find in remarketing, you can use video as well. So if someone's come to your website and you want to remarket back to them, you can maybe send them like a video like, hey, I saw you came to our website. If you're still interested, here's a link. Or if you want to schedule some time to talk, here's a link. I use that when I go to do presentations. I put UTMs in my presentations. I have QR codes. So I have like free, guides so people can download that. I put a UTM in there, I track it, and then I automate that in my HubSpot. So I create an email where I say, thank you for attending the session, shoot a video, and then send that to them and say, if you want to schedule some time, here's a link to my schedule. And I time that so it's like 2 days after the session. So it's not like right when they get home, it's in their inbox, but it's kind of like top of mind.
I love that. Yeah, it really does fit in all stages of the funnel. We with our agency, we talk to our clients about top of funnel with the ads, mid funnel with the explainers, and then retargeting is solid. That definitely catches my eye when I see it. But then also just kind of like that customer retention video, like a holiday video, something to keep them coming back, because I think the customer that stays longer, is better for business. So
yeah, that's great as well. Yep.
All right, 2 more. What AI tool do you think every business should at least try?
Yeah, so ChatGPT is probably my primary. I also use Read AI for all of my meetings, and I find that super helpful. Like, I don't have to take notes during the meeting. I can actually pay attention to the conversation and connecting with the person, and then I can go back and then remember the task and all the things that I promised during the meeting. Then I can go back and do it.
So helpful.
And so to me, and then also I've been doing a lot of video creation. So Veo and what's the one that's in ChatGPT? Quora, I think is what it's called.
Oh, Sora. Yeah.
Sora.
Yeah.
So I've been, just playing around because of my film background. It's kind of fun for me at this stage to say, and I tell myself, I want to do everything free. So I created the video on Veo, and then created the voiceover using 11 Labs, text to chat, and then you can choose like the style of voice. And yeah, people like that because they're kind of cute. I did one with, I have a dog, I have a cockapoo. And so I was looking at her one day and I'm like, what they say in marketing, animals or kids.
Yes.
And so I was like, how can I incorporate my dog Teddy into my advertising? So I created a character called Teddy, who's a cockapoo, who has a business, and then my marketing agency helps her with her leads and her customers. So yeah.
Well, that's animals and kids always drive the clicks for sure.
Yes.
Last question. How would you define clarity?
Yeah, well, it's something that you're probably always chasing, but clarity is when you get to the point where you can understand the data and you can see the path that it's telling you to go, and then you take that path. But obviously you have to be adaptable and agile, because always the input that you're getting is changing. But clarity is, I think, that feeling where you're like satisfied with the information and the data that you've gotten and that you can make a proper decision based on that existing data at that time.
Amazing. Well, Barry, I've been super impressed and excited about the future of AI. I think you've inspired me and all of our listeners. So I really appreciate your time today on this episode.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been excellent and a great conversation.
This has truly been one of the most balanced approaches to AI with business and marketing that I've heard in a long time. So as marketers, we need to future-proof, thinking about our businesses not only from how does the physical building look like or how does our website look like, but how is it going to look like when someone's using an LLM or they're using AR or VR and they're seeing reviews before they even walk in the door. It's really important to be forward-thinking, future-minded, and make sure that we're using AI and automations to better our processes and help our business. Thanks for joining me on this episode of The Clarity Code. We'll see you on the next one.
Catch The Clarity Code on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.